Hey guys, it's me, Miss Vinson. Today's quick lesson is just going to cover one last little concept that we need to talk about that you might see perhaps one multiple choice question on, called the quantity theory of money. And the quantity theory of money, basically in a nutshell, says that if you increase the money supply, that's going to inevitably lead to an increase in the overall price level or inflation. Now, the quantity theory of money helps us to understand why when banks print money to pay off their debts, this extra printing of money leads to higher inflation and usually hyperinflation. The quantity theory of money looks like this. It has M times V equals P times Q. Now I'm going to tell you what each of those components means. M stands for the money supply. So M is the amount of money that is in circulation that we've talked about the Federal Reserve increasing or decreasing. So the M stands for the money supply, the money in circulation in the circular flow model. V stands for the velocity of money. The velocity of money refers to the average amount of times that a dollar bill is spent in a given time, usually a year. So basically the velocity of money is how many times that money goes around that circle and gets respent, becomes someone's income, gets respent, becomes someone's income. Now on the other side of the equation, we have P. P represents the overall average price level of items in the economy. This is the same thing as price level on the y-axis on our aggregate demand, aggregate supply model. And then Q is going to represent the quantity of actual goods and services that we're producing in our country, which is going to be our real GDP. Wait a second, we've seen P times Q before. P times Q, the first time we ever learned that was when we were learning total revenue. Well, if we take the total quantity of things a country is producing, the Q, and we multiply it by the prices that they're being sold for, the P, then that's going to give us the amount that's being brought in from the goods and services produced in a country in a given year. In other words, P times Q, that's going to be nominal GDP. Now, how does that equal M and V? M is the money supply, and V is how many times that dollar is spent over and over again. Remember, we learned the spending multiplier. We said that whenever somebody gets money and they spend it, that goes around and they spend it. And if we count the total amount of spending by consumers, businesses, government, and foreign countries, all of that spending, that's going to equal GDP as well. All right, so both sides equal each other. Both sides are basically telling us the nominal GDP. What's the point of this equation and how does it help us understand inflation? Economists generally assume that the velocity of money is pretty constant. What that means is they assume that people's spending patterns don't change very much. People get their paychecks, usually at a regular interval, and they go and spend certain amounts at regular intervals, whether they're paying for gas in their car every week, whether they're buying groceries for the next 2 weeks. People's spending patterns because of their paychecks tend to be a little bit constant. Economists also assume that Q, the quantity of goods we're producing, real GDP, on the right-hand side of the equation, stays pretty constant and doesn't fluctuate much either. Because the only thing that's really going to increase how much stuff we're producing, or our real GDP, is going to be if we have an increase in productivity, if there's an increase in technology, if there's an increase in physical capital. Only if we get those increases in things that help make businesses more productive are we going to have an increase in the quantity of stuff that our country is producing. So if V and Q are relatively constant, then all that means is if the Federal Reserve increases the money supply, then that is going to inevitably lead to an increase in the price level or inflation. Don't get hung up on the quantity theory of money too much. The big idea behind this theory is just the realization that an increase in the money supply is going to lead to an increase in the overall price level. All right, guys, I don't have any worksheets for you to do on quantity theory of money, and I haven't seen any part of a free response question that deals with the quantity theory of money. It's usually a random multiple choice question kind of thrown in there, but it is on the syllabus, so I want to make sure we go over it in case you get that random question. And that's it. That's all of macroeconomics, since we don't have to go into the open economy and foreign exchange. So from here on out, it's just massive review. All right, you guys. Talk to you later.